So we did the article on why women don't want macho men, and there was a research conducted of 4,800 women on faceresearch.org, and they were young in their mid-20s, and all ethnicities were identified as white and from different parts of the country. The women were to click through a list of psychology experiments like face preferences, age, and the attractiveness of a guy. And after those were made, they were told that they were going to be presented with men's faces to choose from. And from these faces, they would decide which one they liked better or felt that was more attractive. And although these faces were very similar, they were different in the aspects of, in this picture, the one on the left is more masculine than the one on the right. The one on the left, as you can tell, has a wider jaw and the eyebrows are thicker.
All right. And after looking at all the data that they got from this study, which included the women's facial preferences on the men, what country they were from, and the health index of their country, they concluded that they could predict how masculine women liked men based on the nation's statistics for mortality rates, life expectancy, and the impact of disease in that country. In the countries that had especially poor health, they leaned towards manlier men, and some of these countries were Mexico, Brazil, Bulgaria, and Argentina. And countries with particularly good health leaned more toward feminine men, and these were countries like Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Austria, Romania, Greece, and New Zealand. And the lowest masculinity preferences were found in Belgium, and Belgium is said to have one of the best healthcare in the world. So in the United States, we're 5th out of 30 countries in preferring masculine men as opposed to feminine. And our healthcare rating out of the 30 countries was 20th, and we were one of the least healthy countries in the experiment, and so that has something to do with why we prefer masculine men. And how is it possible? They think it begins with the theory of sexual selection, and that women are choosier when it comes to men because they take more risk in reproduction and childbearing. And it's in the best interest to choose a high-quality male because that means they're in good health.
And the reason that the researchers posit women in less healthy countries prefer more masculine men is because of testosterone. Testosterone is immunosuppressive, so in order to withstand the effects of large amounts of testosterone, men must be healthy. And it's also related to strength related to strength. So the reason that they think that women in healthier countries prefer less masculine men is because high testosterone men are perceived as being uncooperative, philandering, and poor parents. And men who were rated as the most masculine were more likely to get divorced, leave home, cheat on their wives, and admit that they hit or hurled things at their wives. Which brings us to how much does masculinity matter? And if you're living in a country with good health and low levels of disease, not very much. And the experiment found that generally speaking, the nation's health index explained more of the variation than culture-specific norms, such as women's equality, crime rates, and controlled resources. And the study concluded that modern masculinity may be becoming less valued, but American women apparently prefer strong masculinity. However, this may change with improved healthcare, women's financial freedom, and women being more socially secure. Any questions?
How do you think that, other than finances and things like that, in the health of the country, do you think culture would affect this?
Masculinity preferences?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that brings into question in the U.S. That's where James Dean's from, Clint Eastwood, and they're like seen as like very masculine. So yeah.
Based on that question, how much do you think those factors would have to increase the financial freedom, healthcare, and all that for us to move away from the cultural preference for masculine men, as it's very prevalent in Hollywood and anywhere else? How much do you think the other factors would have to increase before it actually would affect the culture?
I probably would say not too much, just because I feel like in America, I feel people are always gonna like lean towards masculine men. So I mean, it might change a little with more financial freedom and everything, but I really
think the U.S. will always be the manly men.
yeah. Yeah.
You guys were saying that the women were judging what kind of parent the guy would be on his looks. Do you think, I feel like that's just judgments, and you can't tell that at all. What kind of parent the guy would be over his looks. So I guess my question is, do you feel like it's possible that those are just judgments and that the research done is actually, incorrect?
Well, it's not just judgment. They also tested their testosterone levels, and more masculine men have more testosterone, and that's what they concluded. So it's not purely on judgment.
It's a statistical relationship, though. Like, just because a man has more testosterone doesn't mean that he's going to be a poorer parent or husband or whatever. But given a large sample, it's more likely, or more of the men are going to be poor parents or husbands than less masculine men.